Come on.
Awesome. We are officially live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. I am so stoked to be sitting down with the CEO and founder of ChiroHD, Gabriel Doty, tonight. And we are going to talk all about EHR systems. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about how to grow your practice utilizing your EHR system. And making that flow of patients just so efficient, so effective. And it's going to be really important of a conversation to listen in on and to watch kind of beginning to end. But if you catch us, kind of in the middle, that's all right too. And you can always catch this again as well. But I'm really excited for this conversation, Gabriel. And I know you and I always have a blast when we're on. You were on last season. And we always have a good time, but we give it to people raw, real, right? We're authentic people, and we want to be honest with you, right? That's what this whole entire podcast is about, is giving you a little bit of insight to the chiropractic profession to say, hey, look and listen, what's really out there compared to what we hear and what we see on the glorified internet and webs, right? So this is going to be a really fun conversation. I'm really excited for it. Before we get started, let's thank our initial sponsors here, and let me share this all over Facebook and Instagram, and then we'll be right back to have a nice conversation with all of you. We'll be right back, guys. To Inspire Women is the elite boutique coaching company for chiropractors who are looking to live life and run business in a way that is personal, unique, and authentic. They focus on business systems and money mindset mastery so you can pay down debt, be more profitable, and serve more people. Their goal is to empower you to achieve success by your own rules and your own definition. Head to toinspirewomen.com now because they know there's a better way. ChiroHD, superior cloud-based practice management software. ChiroHD is a user-friendly, all-in-one EHR solution built with one mission: to help you run your practice like a boss. Learn more at ChiroHD.com. Total Clinic Solutions is your go-to source for purchasing both brand new and refurbished chiropractic equipment, as well as phone support for repairs and maintenance. Call Derek and allow him to combine your wishes and his 23 years of chiropractic equipment expertise to find what's best for you and your patients at 704-622-4089 or head to TotalClinicSolutions.com now. It's time that chiropractors look beyond spinal alignments and measured the nerve connections that keep our patients feeling strong and performing at their peak. CLA designed the Insight scanning technologies to transform exams and generate powerful reports that give practitioners the certainty they have been searching for. Learn how CLA has partnered with practices around the world by going to insightcla.com. Spinal hygiene products are designed to educate your patients on the importance of lifetime spinal care. To learn more about how spinal hygiene products work and to download the patient education material for free, visit spinalhygiene.co. Again, that's spinalhygiene.co. Easily share your passion for chiropractic and look good doing it with Above Down Apparel, offering a premium lineup of principled apparel that's impossibly soft, sustainably sourced, and chiropractic AF. Visit abovedown.co and follow them on Instagram to learn more and score yourself some sweet chiro swag. Sked is the all-in-one system that allows for amazing control and flexibility of your scheduling. Yes, your next new hire. Every aspect of when and where you service your customers is at your command. Sked is tightly integrated with your existing EHR system. This software was made by a chiropractor specifically for chiropractic. No joke. Go check out their latest care plan feature by heading to go.sked.life/legendarypod. Dr. David Toohill is an innovative product and marketing strategist, bridging the gap between your vision and strategic plan. He will help you design specific products and processes that are both scalable and set up to produce long-term revenue and growth. He has previously worked with influencers that include Dr. Josh Axe, Jordan Rubin of Ancient Nutrition, Olympic gold medalist Shawn Johnson, and many, many others. Schedule your call with Dr. Dave today by heading to meetwithdrdave.com. Training the best adjusters on the planet. Syntropy has reverse engineered what the masters do naturally. From the energetics to the mechanics, they've hacked the code to shorten your learning curve on the road to masterful adjusting. To find a seminar near you, head to syntropychirotraining.com. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Awesome, guys. Welcome again. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. I am thrilled to be sitting down with Gabriel Doty tonight. And I want to let everyone know, I totally forgot at the beginning, but now it is Gabriel's birthday today. And I am very, very pumped that he is sitting down with us and willing to chat, right? And he's got a nice glass of whiskey over there or bourbon, and it's the birthday kind of night. So I want to thank you, Gabriel, for being on your birthday. I know you don't have to be here. I know you could be doing other things, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and out of your evening here to spend some time with us and our audience over here on the Legendary Chiropractor. So to get started, I want to fill you in a little bit about what we're going to be talking about tonight and why we're going to be talking about it, because all of this is really important, not only for ChiroHD and their rollout that happened Jan 1st, but also with just business acumen and what that looks like for your practice and building your business through an EHR system, and even more so of just kind of tapping into Gabriel's knowledge of business acumen and really understanding where he's coming from with his entrepreneurship and why he stepped into this space in the first place. So without further ado, Gabriel, I'm going to let you kind of share a little bit about who you are, just so people get a reminder of who you are. And then I'll list off some of the topics we're going to be talking about tonight. And then we'll dive deep into the conversation. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's always fun talking to you. And I know we've had a lot of conversations offline since our last conversation, just about your website and what you're doing and all that. So it's a lot of interesting things happening with the Legendary Chiropractor. I'm excited to see roll out over the next few months as well. Yeah. So congrats on all your success.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but so a little bit of background for those that don't know. So I'm the CEO of ChiroHD. We're a fairly new EHR, cloud-based EHR company that, like you said, we rolled out officially January 1st. We've been in beta for just over a year. We're running in about 55 offices right now, and working across, and that's across our beta cycles. And obviously, we're looking to expand that pretty significantly over the next year, hopefully. So that's exciting. But before that, I've been in the software space for about 16, 17 years. I actually still work as director of engineering for a marketing company. So, I've got a lot of experience in big data, working with cloud-based sites and cloud-based development. And so we've also got a great team around us that's really building. We'll dive into a little bit about my team and what we've done over the last year, but specifically the last 3 months since the last conversation. So looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely, Gabriel. I'm excited to get into it as well. So tonight we're talking about definitely what's new with ChiroHD, right? You got to know what's coming and what's been in the works for, like he said, over a year, a little bit over a year in beta testing, and why that's so important. I also want to touch on that a little bit about why beta testing is so important, why real feedback and lifetime feedback is so critical to the end outcome of a new site, a new platform, a new software. So we're going to talk all about that. And then we're going to talk about privacy and security. I know a lot of people talk about HIPAA and compliance, and you definitely don't want to get an EHR where you're worried about that kind of stuff. So we're definitely going to talk about that with Gabriel tonight. And then we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, marketing, and how that kind of integrates and goes with your EHR system and what that really looks like in practice, right? In real-time practice, and how we can, as chiropractors, kind of run the ship through our EHR system. So I'm excited to dive in, Gabriel. So let's start, right away with the what's new topic, and talk to us a little bit about what's been in the works for so long in that beta process. And now that you got to roll out January 1st, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so just since so I was on October 30th last time. I was actually getting ready to go to the last Atlanta United playoff game. Unfortunately, they lost and didn't get to go to the MLS Cup, but it was still a fun night. So, but since then, I was looking through today just to kind of get a general feel for things. We've done 98 releases to our software since October 30th.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea of the scale and speed at which we're looking at adding products and adding features and working on development. And so that was something we talked about a little bit last time, was just the difference between maybe using a system that's been around for a long time versus an up and coming system, which we talked about a little bit, that there's going to be quite a few coming up this year. And I think one of the things that you'll find as you look at new and upcoming companies is that they tend to operate at a different speed. And part of that goes into that beta process that we're talking about, right? So there's always an urgency to get the product out and an urgency to get to market from that perspective. But there's also a lot more innovation and willingness to listen to the people that we're working with and the partners that we've made so far, and listening to the feedback and making changes and being able to adapt. So that's a big part of it. But yeah, 98 releases since October 30th. But obviously not all of those are big, huge feature releases. Some of those are just workflows and bug fixes and things like that. But it's still a significant amount of work that's gone in over the last 3 months. So some of the things that we've updated in that time, we talked about that this was something in the works, but we've rolled out a pretty major update to our soap note system. We're actually working to continue that work with Custom Chiro Solutions. We're working with them on building out some base macros for the entire system that will be available for offices that are coming on board very soon. That's one piece of feedback that we've gotten pretty regularly as we've talked to people coming out of school is they want something to begin with, where we give them a very robust system to build things out. Their first question is like, I don't even know where to start.
Right.
So we're working on trying to give you at least a baseline utilities with those types of things, and we're working again like with John Davila and his company, and trying to leverage other people in the industry that have been doing really awesome things for a long time. So we're hoping to have that released sometime in the near future. Obviously, as we're getting ready to open the doors to other offices, infrastructure is always a really big thing that people ask about and wonders like. Right now we're sitting at 50 offices. What happens when we get to, hundreds of offices, and what does that look like from, reliability and making sure that the system stays stable and up? And so we've put a lot of time and effort and energy into just making sure that system is ready for bringing on new offices. As part of that, we've also started rolling out integrated support features. So we have an integrated support chat, so you can interact with our support agents in app instead of having to pick up a phone or call or send us an email. You can actually just chat with an agent live in app. We've been working on building out like our frequently asked questions into that service. So just if you're used to like online banking and you ask a question, a lot of times there'll be a bot that might prompt you with some quick suggestions. We're working on that type of setup as well. We've spent a lot of time on reporting, which is probably the most significant update, is really just trying to dive into very specific information that can help you grow your practice, that can help you close backdoor issues, those types of things. And that has been something we've put a lot of effort and energy into. The big tricky thing about that is that every practice is a little bit different. They care about slightly different things. They measure things slightly differently. And so, trying to build the system in a way where we can not just tell them, oh, that's not the way you do it. We can say, okay, well, if you want to look at this number this way, here's how you can set that up. So we've been working a lot on that. Working a lot on updates to our two-way texting feature, or our SMS feature in the app. Right now, we have a very robust way to send out text notifications for appointments and things like that, but we have not really rolled out a full two-way texting setup. That is something that is imminent. That will be coming very soon. Is a full integrated two-way texting environment. We've also done a lot of work on the automating process for bringing on new offices. 3 months ago, I think you even asked me if someone wants to sign up, and I was like, well, send me an email and we'll set you up with the environment, all that.
Right.
It's a very manual process, and so we've been working on automating that. So if you want to sign up, you can go to the website. You can go through the entire sign up process and be using us in just a few minutes. So you don't have to actually have someone on the other end taking care of that. Lots of things to, again. One of the things, I mentioned it in reporting, but the other thing, just as an overview, is that we really are trying to find ways to give practices tools that they can kind of customize and run things their own way that aren't really confined by our system, which is something that we we want to be careful of, because we do feel like we've tapped into some really good workflows, and we want to encourage offices to work a certain way, especially something that new people coming out, they might not understand or know how to run things. And so we want to give them that template. It's like, hey, we're running offices seeing 700-800 to practice, or 700-800 patients a week. They're using this workflow. We think this is a really good workflow, but at the same time, there's just things that sometimes aren't going to fit. And so trying to give them the flexibility to customize some of those things. We've been really honing in on some of those things. And then the other ones, those are all things that have changed in the system over the last 3 months, but we've also got three big features that are imminent. I mentioned the two-way texting. So the second one is a mobile app is coming very soon. And that mobile app is obviously patient-facing. They'll be able to schedule appointments and do those types of actions from an app that will be coming out very soon. And then we're working on insurance integration as well, where we have obviously support for insurance through our partner Office Ally, but that is still a fairly manual process, and we're working on making that an integrated part where people don't have to think about the fact that they're interacting with this company called Office Ally. They just submit insurance from the app and it's ready to go.
Awesome.
So I mean, that kind of covers, just 3 short months of work, and that's in the middle of, New Year's and Christmas and Thanksgiving and all this other stuff that we've been working on during that time.
Unbelievable.
So it's been a wild 3 months.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. I love it. Unbelievable, but also awesome, because I really like to say it's awesome, right? But I kind of understand where you're coming from in regards to like all of the work that goes on behind the scenes that nobody really sees, right? We just see this finished, polished, beautiful product, and we're like, yeah, this rocks, right? And, Gabriel and his team are over there doing everything they can to supply you with the best of the best, right? No matter if that's the ease and efficiency of it, or if it's the effectiveness and the integrations that come with the process or with the software, with the platform. So I definitely know where you're coming from that. So I give you massive props and kudos to you and your team and ChiroHD for just, hunkering down over the holidays and over the past year and really taking feedback from people and saying, what do we need? And like you said, I think it's really important that we do know that chiropractic offices and practices run very differently. And as I have, been sitting in the passenger seat of kind of applying for jobs and looking for associateships and all of this stuff, I became very aware of the fact of like, yeah, that statement couldn't be more real, right? Like everyone is different because it's a very personality driven. As much as we like to say we're all about business systems and all procedures and stuff, practices are very personality driven, and it becomes a baby, right? It becomes your company, right? And so it's kind of an interesting conversation. So to build an EHR system around that, to build a platform that you want to see in hundreds of thousands of offices around the globe, that can be a taxing kind of weight on you, if you will. So I definitely give you props for that. So I wrote down at least 7 updates that you just briefly mentioned in the last 7 months, and those were the bigger ones. Like you said, there are bug fixes and all sorts of different things. But I wanted to mention 2 specifically. The SOAP note systems. Macros are huge. We know this through obviously learning, like you said, through past EHR systems. But also, what do offices really need? What do offices really want? What does that SOAP note look like? And what does it have to say, right? What does it have to say if we're looking at your roadmap and saying, insurance integration coming and you're not dealing with third parties and stuff like that, if you are filling out a macro, does it match what that insurance company is wanting for that billing process to take place? So that's huge. That's absolutely huge. The second one I wrote down was flexibility in reporting. I think that's really key when it comes to customizing what those reports look like, how those reports are coming back to the chiropractor, and what information they're sharing with the chiropractor, right? Because a lot of times we get this report that's like, a couple of pages long, and we're like, what? Half this stuff means nothing to me, right? And a lot of that's back-end EHR system stuff that really means something to someone, but not necessarily to the practicing chiropractor. So I think that's really, really important. Those are 2 really important things that I wrote down. And then your roadmap of texting, two-way texting is huge. we use a third-party app in our office right now where I'm peaking, and it's great. Two-way texting is great for just patient communication and interaction and reminders. And then you also mentioned the patient-facing. I don't know if people heard that, but it's a patient-facing, meaning the patient downloads it onto their phone or has it as a web-based app on their phone, and they are able to do or access EHR and schedule things and change schedules through the application. So I think that's really important that I mention what patient-facing means, because a lot of times we catch things that are like, oh, that was a good point, but maybe someone didn't catch that. But yeah, that's really, really cool. And then that insurance integration that we talked about before. So I'm stoked for you guys. I'm stoked for ChiroHD and all that you guys are doing. I was going to ask you about the roadmap, but you went right into it. Do you have anything else up and coming that you kind of want to mention?
So there's always, a million things that we're looking at and evaluating. Right. But I think if you look at what we're trying to do over the next year, part of it is slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So the last, you mentioned that beta testing process, and I mentioned 98 releases. So there's a speed right now that has to slow down as you grow and get bigger. Yep. Right. Is that we have to put more methodical time into making sure that an update isn't going to break something or cause downtime. And so part of our goal over the next year is to slow down a little bit and make sure that we're being very, very stable. So that's a stated goal of what we're trying to do over the next year. And so part of that is adding more people to do things like QA and to test as we don't want to test on offices. We want our own team to be internally testing these types of things. Yeah. And so that's a big focus for sure. Mobile app and two-way texting are definitely big things, and those will continue to get even after the rollout. Those things are going to evolve a lot over the next year, right? So the just those coming out right now isn't the big thing. It's that's the starting point. Right. It's like, okay, here's something, but now it's like, okay, now how do we take this to the next level, and what else can we add into the app? And we've got big ideas for being able to put more power in the patient's hands in terms of sharing their medical records with other offices. So if you're visiting in another state and you go to an office that also uses ChiroHD, having some way to temporarily let them have access to your records, those types of things, yeah. And let the patient drive that interaction instead of the office. And so kind of the same way you might do like two-way verification where the patient kind of says, all right, I'm going to send you authorization, and there's that kind of exchange back and forth. But our vision for the app is just mass access by not just the patient, but the ability to switch offices and move around and not have this clunky process, or they're to their MD, and even like maybe they go to an MD for something and they want access to their X-rays, and there's really seamless ways to give that information in what we're going to get into, HIPAA compliant, EFI compliant type way. And so that's something that we're looking at. I think that those are enough, because we're going to be doing a lot of workflow stuff. There's a lot coming in terms of as we add offices. I mentioned earlier that we're adding more and more different types of offices. We've got a couple offices that are amped offices. That's very new to us. So we've got a whole different process, procedure, the things that they like to see that we're having to go through. We're working with another franchise, so we've got 3 or 4 very different business models in there right now, and we expect that to go from 3 or 4 to 50 in the next few months. And so a lot of this is going to be really tweaking those workflows and figuring out like how do we, because we don't want to be to the point where you can customize whatever you want, right? Because it just gets confusing. And you guys have probably all used even other EHR chiropractic apps out there that let you do literally anything, and it's overwhelming. And for especially, we talked about Web 2.0, and like the current generation isn't used to that kind of environment where they are given like, okay, now go configure every hotkey, and you have to press A, B, C, D, E, F, G to do an action instead of doing clicking. And there's a lot of things there that have changed over the last 20 years in terms of software that we're trying to be respectful of, but also give that flexibility for growing at scale. So I think those are our main big focuses. Obviously, we want to continue to looking at partnerships with companies that are doing awesome things. Like I already mentioned, we're not in the business of writing soap notes, but we want to give you high quality ones. That's why we're talking to custom Chiro solutions and things like that. And so we want to continue to look at those types of partnerships and find synergies where we can bring things into the system that other people are better, more mature in, and when it makes sense. Obviously, there's not always an overlap there, but we want to continue to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'm going to share kind of my opinions and thoughts and ideas of what you just went over and what you talked about. Then we're going to get into privacy and security in your EHR system and why that's so important. We'll be right back, guys. Every chiropractic clinic needs a compliance program. If you are not sure what that includes or why you need one, let Dr. Robin from RHDC Consulting help you build your chiropractic compliance. If you are ready to get started, head to robin-hale.mykajabi.com and let Dr. Robin guide you to the end result. Turnkey Practice is a chiro-focused full-service team. They are your administrative guidance through credentialing, lease agreements, and of course, office build-outs. They are there from start to finish, allowing you to focus on the marketing and building your patient base while they build your practice. Tailor-made for you. To get started, head to myturnkeypractice.com/legendarypod. Dr. Christy Wick is revamping the landscape of women's chiropractic coaching. With a focus on connection and congruence, she's on a mission to empower lady DCs across the nation to create bold, successful lives and practices their way. Get started today by visiting theilluminatedsquad.com. Imaging Services' primary business is chiropractic solutions. With over 45 years in the industry of helping chiropractors, Michael Tokash offers free consultations on building your business. In the past year, Imaging Services has installed over 100 X-ray machines and digital X-ray systems in over 42 states across the United States. For more, head to theimagingservices.com. The 56-day chiropractic boot camp, building badass female chiropractors who are instinctively successful. Head to 56daychirobootcamp.com/legendary for your free endless referrals cheat sheet now. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Awesome. Thanks for sticking around. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. I'm so happy that you're on. I want to briefly kind of recap what Gabriel was talking about before we took that short break. And I wrote down a couple keywords. And with just your roadmap, your updates, and everything that you guys have created here with ChiroHD and this amazing EHR system that you have 55 offices and growing now, utilizing. So I wrote down your goals this year, or your goal this year, right, is to kind of slow down. And I think there's some intelligence behind that, right? It's not slow down in business sales. It's not slow down in all of this stuff. It's slow down in the sense of like, There should be a time where there isn't so much to do, right? And there should be a time where, yeah, you want to always be growing your business. You want to always be growing your practice. You want to always be growing ChiroHD. But at the same time, there should be a time where it is stable, right? And you can kind of back off of it and say, okay, now we can find some minor bugs that we can, if we tweak this one thing, it's going to make the program that much better, right? And sometimes when we're in the thick of it and we're in the behind the scenes and updating and new things are coming in, we kind of lose our clarity in the mud, if you will. So I wrote down work smarter, not faster and harder. And creating stability also creates longevity, right? If a company is not stable, if a company is just coming off a whim and just like throwing, spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks, like that's not a stable company that will last for a long, long time. And so with the comment that you said of slowing down, I think it's really smart. I think it's a good business move. But I think that it's also meant to be applied in the terms I just mentioned. Instead of slowing down in sales and business, is to slow down in updates and bug fixes and features. And then I want to mention one last thing that you mentioned kind of briefly, but you were like, we don't want to make it overly customizable, right? And I think that's really important for, number one, a student, which is, pretty much the basis of this audience on the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. But we have some docs, right? But the students coming out, they want to have some structure, right? We have grown up, right, in a technology surrounded world all our lives. We didn't come from no phones to phones. We've always had phones. It's just they've always improved, right? And it should be the same now with chiropractic and our EHR systems. So I want to almost kind of throw this out there and say you guys are almost taking more of an Apple mentality versus an Android mentality. So an Apple mentality, what I mean by that is like, can I customize some things on this phone? Absolutely. I can customize, dark mode, light mode, all this stuff, and font size, all, various things, what my homepage looks like, what my doc has in it, all of that. But there are some basic features that Apple's like, no, don't touch that, right? Don't touch that. And there's a reason that it's like that, right? So I think it's really, really, really smart that ChiroHD is kind of taking that same approach. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's kind of the approach you are taking. And I think it's really smart for, again, we go back to that longevity of the company and looking at if everyone can customize it, right? What are people really getting, right? It kind of dilutes the product. It dilutes the message that you want to have out there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just I'm going to echo both of those points. So obviously the first one is you're right on, right? We don't want to slow down. We want to grow massively this year. We want to push the envelope in terms of how we're growing as a company and who we're reaching and who we're interacting with. We want to slow down in terms of exactly what you're talking about, stability. Maybe a little bit on the personal side where I can, take some first class vacations, do whatever I want, but I got to slow down a little bit. It's been a little crazy. So definitely got to slow down a little bit on my side too. But the goal is to move the company forward while making sure that we're stable. And one thing that in software, it's a phrase that we talk about in software all the time is there's an idea of how long do you put something in testing before you release it? And so one of the very well-known, adages in software is if you're not embarrassed of the first release, then you did it too late. So the idea is you've got to really bridge that gap of we needed to get it in people's hands. We needed we need to get feedback on it, and we need to get it moving, but we want it to be stable enough where they're not frustrated. And so we're trying to kind of find that line. And so we want to make sure that we're continuing to do that. And then on your second point, you're absolutely right. And we have another software term that we use when we talk about that type of software, and it's just called opinionated. Right. And that just means that we have an opinion about how the software should be used. And there are certain things that we're like, all right, I don't have a strong opinion about this, so I'm going to let you change this. But there are certain things in the application, absolutely, where we're going to draw the line and say this is something that we feel very strongly about, and if you have a strong disagreement with this, then we might not be your software. Now, that being said, that there's not a lot of things that go into that category. It's more big, broad stroke types of things. Like we're going to be a web-based application, so it runs inside Google Chrome, right? So we're not going to look at a desktop type application, or I want to be able to run it on, some other type of environment, or we're an online, right? So it's cloud-based, so you have to have internet access. Right. So when people ask, well, what happens if I go offline? Instead of saying, well, we're working on an offline version of it, it's always like, well, how can we better your network or give you a backup fail-safe, or how do we, do those types of things? Because we're an online application. So just in the same way that, if you're banking or any of these other apps that you're used to using, if they're down, they're down. Right. And so it's more about trying to find those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about the second thing, or the second topic kind of. And you mentioned it briefly, but that's the HIPAA compliance, the privacy, the security. And we talked a little bit about this in our first conversation about, people are curious of where their records are these days in today's day and age more than I think ever before. And so I'd love to hear your take on where ChiroHD sits on all this and what you're doing to protect not only the compliance for the doctor, but also the compliance for the patients, right?
Yeah, and so just to fill in the audience, something that me and Johnny talked about beforehand is I really want to also focus on things that aren't just ChiroHD. So I want to really talk about HIPAA and EHR and EFI and what that looks like in your practice, what ChiroHD does in some of those things. But I find that there's so much information around this stuff that's really misinformation, right? It's out there, and it's really, 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 really hard to find accurate, good information on what you actually have to do. It's like trying to find the city of Atlantis. You know it's out there. There's information about it, but you just can't quite put your hands on it. So it's stuff that we want to make simple for people coming into the software, and we can coach them on not just how to be HIPAA compliant using ChiroHD, but how they can run their practice slightly differently. The things that they need to be worried about inside their practice. And so just some quick things. I mean, you guys probably get harped on HIPAA in school. That's one that you hear all the time, but ones that are probably not quite as obvious are EHR and EFI. So electronic health records, obviously that's very, pretty much even with non-cloud-based systems, you're still working with electronic records. You're not printing them and then putting them in a folder somewhere. Their record is on file. You might occasionally print those things, but it's not something you have physical access to most of the time. And EFI or EPHI is just electronic health protected or personal health information. So anything that is unique to a patient file that needs to be protected and shouldn't be shareable. And so a lot of things that I find around this is people think that it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you have family members, a lot of times it's grandparents or something like that have that feel like the best place to keep their money is in a safe in the back of their house or in their bed or in the mattress, those types of things, right? So it's really hard to convince them that their money is actually safer in a bank. And so when you have that mentality, there's just like this idea that somehow you have better control and better protection over that stuff. And I think that is a lot of what's happened in not just chiropractic, but small medical practices, independent practices where you don't have the backing of a hospital and like all this stuff where you've got a server in your back room. I don't think people realize how vulnerable and how much they are not protecting those things, right? So if you take just a quick peek at some of the HIPAA laws in terms of like how, if you're storing electronic records, so you're running a system that requires you to have a server in the back room. Like if you really dig into HIPAA without, it's not digging deep into it, it's pretty quickly, like you have to have physical safeguards in place. Like they talk about, logging access to your server room, and like you need to know who every person that stepped in there and when they came in there, and you need to know who has keys to that room, and those keys need to be regulated, and there needs to be an approval process for anyone that gets those keys. And I know that no office out there, there's no office I've encountered that does that stuff, but they're the same offices that come to me and they're like, well, I'm concerned about about HIPAA and where the records are. And when you look at the way that we protected our data and the way that probably any cloud-based system does is we're leveraging services like Amazon Web Services, where they literally do all those things in their data warehouses. They've got cameras and logging, and they back it and they say, hey, our stuff is HIPAA protected, and we can leverage their stuff and extend that offer or extend that assurance to our customers and say, we are also HIPAA compliant to our best knowledge. And so you're really leveraging information and you're leveraging expertise of people that aren't you, because no one in here is a HIPAA expert. If you're running your practice, if you're a HIPAA and EHR expert, then you shouldn't be running a chiropractic office. You should be out there consulting on HIPAA and EHR because they need more people like that out there. So it's just, I think it's a general thing that people need to kind of move forward with as technology grows and there's more cloud-based services and things. It's like, just trust that the people that you're working with are probably know more about it than you and probably have a better handle on it. And ask questions. I mean, don't be foolish with it, but I would just say drop a little bit of the skepticism on it, because I promise you the amount of thought and effort and intention and brain power put into how to protect that data on the other side of it is 10 times more than you've probably put into it. And I'm not saying that it's an insulting thing. It's just something that people don't really think about. Right. Like we mentioned 98 releases, and I can't tell you how many hours we've poured over data models and database schemas and the stuff that no one wants to hear about, right? It's all the nerd programming stuff, but we've spent way too much time looking at like, how do we make sure that this is protected? It doesn't change. It doesn't, like, it is just an exorbitant amount of time put into that, and we're a small company, so you look at the likes of Amazon and you can only imagine how much effort and energy they've put into that. And so just as a general thing, it's something that people need to realize there's better systems out there, and better ways to do it. And they shouldn't be scared of cloud, right? Cloud is is way more secure. It's backed up. It's in a place that like does all those things that we talked about versus in the back of your your office.
Right.
And especially, the other thing on that is that people who have malicious intentions are getting more and more sophisticated, and they always target technology that's a little bit older. And so you're starting to see a lot more targeted attacks towards some of these older systems. And so one of the things that's come up a lot recently is something called ransomware. I don't know if you've heard of that. We actually had, I know someone who just had this happen recently where, number one, if you all don't already know, don't download things that you don't know what they are in your emails. That's smart. Just a general.
Yep.
Just don't do it. But it's one very common way that ransomware happens is like you'll just download what looks like a really basic file or an attachment, and they have a script that encrypts your entire hard drive. So instantly all your data is encrypted, and they pop up a little message that say, hey, for $2,000, we'll unencrypt all your data. And when that happens, you're done. Like there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
The only thing that you can do is if you were good and you had a back system, you can roll back. But like those types of attacks are out there, and they're becoming more and more common. And so I think just some general guidelines, I would say, whether you're using ChiroHD or not, is leverage cloud more. The amount of infrastructure and security in most cloud stuff is superior to what you're doing in your office.
Right.
And so Google Drive, for example, is HIPAA compliant. You do have to, as a thing that you do have to sign a what's called a business associate agreement with them. But if you have a G Suite thing with them, you can do that. It's free. It's a quick, easy thing. And once you have that, like you don't, instead of saving files on your desktop first, you just save them in Google Drive, and now you're HIPAA compliant. You don't have to worry about that computer anymore.
Right.
So I think that's like that type of thing is something that people can just make easier on themselves and take themselves out of the loop just by thinking about more cloud and less on your stuff. Now, obviously, there's downsides to that because everyone's big thing is what happens when my internet goes down, those types of things. But in terms of impact to yourself, it's a big deal to be able to take some of those things off of your to-do lists and things that you need to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I think a lot of times we as a profession, and I think probably in every profession who needs HIPAA compliance or EHR or any sort of data storage, it's always, some janky closet in the back room with like a dusty computer, and it's like that's their server, right? Like that's it. And then like you said, it's funny that those are the same people that turn around and ask you like, is this HIPAA compliant, right? Like, and that's just so fascinating to me, and it makes me laugh, but it's also the truth. I wrote down a lot of people, if it's not tangible, if we can't touch it, if we can't feel it, if we can't taste the dust and the mold on the server in the back closet, we're concerned about it, right? And like you said, I think you shattered some myths and some beliefs that, there's nothing to be scared about of the cloud, especially in EHR and medical records, and because of the reason that what you said. There are people that are going to be doing way more research, way more, taking way more secure measures than you would ever take personally, than you would ever imagine. So, my biggest thing is if you trust the person in the company, and you trust what they say, then you build that relationship, right? Don't, obviously, like you said, Gabriel, ask questions. Don't just do something willy-nilly. Don't download something from your email inbox that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, understand some of that stuff, but be trustworthy of people who are saying, hey, we're HIPAA compliant. This company wouldn't be a thing. You wouldn't be running 55 offices if you weren't HIPAA compliant. There'd be a lot bigger issues here. And we would probably not be speaking. So it's like that's the biggest thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. So I think you did a good job of shattering some beliefs and some myths there. Let's talk about, do you have anything else to mention on privacy, security, anything like that?
No, I would just, the last thing I would close out on that is just echoing the fact that if you're if you're not doing some of the things that we talked about, like you really also need to think about hiring if you don't already having an IT service company that is minimally is managing that, right? So if you've got a server in the back room, you should have someone managing firewalls and those types of things. So just be smart about it and don't just assume that everything is going to be fine and that you just think it's going to work out, because that might not always be the case.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I'm not willing to flip that coin. Let's talk about two. We're going to kind of combine these. I want to talk a little bit about marketing in your EHR system, but we're going to tie marketing in kind of with an entrepreneurial twist, right? How do we as chiropractors, how do we as individual practitioners out there, maybe using ChiroHD or not, how are we best suited to utilize our EHR in these efforts to retain and gain patients?
Yeah, so there's a lot to that subject, obviously, and I want to talk through a lot of it. But chiropractic is a really unique profession in terms of what they're trying to do in their office, because if you look at even other small medical practice, as we've built out ChiroHD, we've looked at the fields like dental and optometry, and we have aspirations of maybe getting into those types of markets at some point down the road. But if you look at those professions and what they've built, is like they generally don't have to fight the cultural norm around the medical model, right? People have accepted dentistry, like they don't give them a hard time about what they're practicing. No one questions when the optometrist says this is what your eyes, what glasses your eyes need. No one questions that. But so chiropractic is really unique from it, because you really are combining not just what their skill set, right? They're not just offering their skill set. They're also having to combine that with philosophy and really educating people in terms of what they do and why it's relevant and why it works. Like that's a big thing too. So now you've taken someone who is really good at it, who maybe isn't really good at explaining things, and now it's a little harder to run your business. Mm-hmm. And then you add on top of that the fact that most of them, to be really successful, you're starting your own practice or multiple practices, and now you're leveraging one more layer of, you really need someone who's an entrepreneur that's got sound philosophy and also really, really good at what they do. And so that's a really hard combination. So I applaud all the offices that do this, because it's not easy. It's something that I don't take for granted as we work with these offices, is really trying to make sure that we are giving them tools to grow that vision. And so some of our own internal marketing stuff that you'll see over the next years, we really want to align ourselves with understanding that we're entrepreneurs too. Like, so this is a small company. It's not backed by these big funding groups and things like that. It's a small company. We believe in what we're building. We believe in chiropractic and chiropractic philosophy, and we want to see that grow. And obviously we talked a lot last time about reporting and bringing large scale studies and things like that we really want to do. And it's a huge part of our mission, is to help bring those things. But we also understand that pain of just growing as a small entrepreneur, those nights when you're just trying to keep it all together and keep things moving forward. I get it. I've been there myself. You just have to hunker down and really decide, is this it? Is this what I want? And make sure that we kind of, keep moving forward and stay focused on those things. And so I just want to iterate that point. And so when we're building things and we're looking at how to build things, it's with that in mind. It's not that we're just like, oh, we should add a cool marketing feature. It's really about tuning in on, like, how do we help these offices grow and extend their philosophy and really change the medical profession in a better way. And so that's we're always looking at those from that perspective with that heart. And so I mean, that was kind of a sidetrack, but I just wanted to give a little pitch there.
No, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I think you're doing a great job as well, because I think it takes a true, honest company like that to really not utilize their business knowledge and business acumen, and I'll keep saying that, to leverage chiropractic. You're doing almost the opposite, right? You're leveraging your knowledge of chiropractic and saying, hey, how can we best integrate with you, right? How can we go into your office, and how do we make your systems, your procedures, your patient retention that much better, right? And giving people the the power to customize but not customize, right? Being able to, ask you questions on a live support chat, being able to, know that their software or their medical records, rather, their patients' medical records are safe and secure. And I think really what you've done with ChiroHD and just listening to you talk is you've really built that trust. And I think that's a difficult barrier a lot of times that we have, especially as chiropractic students coming out of school. I don't know if you know this about chiropractic students, but I know your wife went through it, and we get sold to a lot. So it's like it's constantly being like, hey, buy this, we're the best, come with us, do this. And it's like after a while it gets exhausting. You don't know where to turn, you don't know who to trust, and it's like I'm terrified, right? But with what I hear from you and what I know about ChiroHD is really the fact of the matter is like you're in this with chiropractors. You're in this with us. You're in it for us. And I think that's really important to understand. If you didn't catch our first talk that Gabriel and I did, our first interview that we did, go back and watch that from season 4 or listen to it on audio podcast when it comes out this season. But it's really important to understand where he's coming from, where ChiroHD is coming from in regards to where they want, what the roadmap looks like for chiropractic. And I feel like we really spoke on that, and you touched a lot on what are some tangible things that have come and some features that have come. But in that first talk, we talked about all sorts of awesome things that you're like, hey, this is, 3 to 5 years from now, I want to be doing this. I want to have this available for chiropractors, and really helping chiropractic move forward through an EHR software and system, which I think is absolutely amazing. So I'm humbled and honored to be associated with ChiroHD. I'm humbled and honored to be associated with yourself. It's absolutely amazing what you guys are doing. I'm pumped to see kind of more what's to come. But before I let you kind of do a closing remark and give, a couple tips and tricks of the trade, I want to take our last ad break. And then when we come back, I want you to, tell everyone where to find you, how to find you, and maybe talk about a little bit about pricing and what that looks like for people.
Sure.
Awesome. Dr. Stu Hoffman, founder and president of ChiroSecure Malpractice Insurance, is the foremost expert in both risk management and risk avoidance. Understanding the everyday challenges of today's practicing chiropractor and the current public perception of chiropractic has made ChiroSecure the fastest growing malpractice insurance program of the last 28 years. Find out more at chirosecure.com. The IFCO is here to support you. Whether you are a chiropractic student, doctor of chiropractic, chiropractic organization, or member of the public, the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations is here for you. They recognize and support your right to practice and receive vertebral subluxation-centered chiropractic care and are here to ensure that right and spread access to that care throughout the world. Head to ifcochiro.org/legendary for more. Be sure to give our friends over at Chiro Hustle a listen. They are bringing together some of the biggest names in the profession and learning from the greats. Chiro Hustle creates a safe space where chiropractic leaders share their stories and their passions with the world. Let's get hustling by heading to chirohustle.com now. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Sweet, guys. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. If you have been with us this whole time, I thank you. I love you. I support you in anything that you have to do in the chiropractic, outside of the chiropractic profession, whatever that might be. But Gabriel, I want you to talk a little bit about pricing, just real nice and quick and brief. And I really want you to touch, because I know you guys do some really solid pricing and student rates coming right out of school when we're, the most stressed and the most financially in debt. I know you guys work with students a lot to kind of get them on their feet and help them realize like, hey, again, we're in this with you, as an EHR company. So go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, one quick thing I want to close out that last section.
Go for it.
A really quick statement, and that was just something that is slightly different about ChiroHD in terms of how we're built, not just from what I said, but is the entire way we've been working with CEOs of several franchises and high volume practices. We have a billing company that we work with. Like, so all that stuff has been put in and been built us, but it's not just one or two people. It's been a team of people that have really kind of helped that. And so I think that's part of that personality comes through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, let's talk about pricing. So like you mentioned, we really want to, we want to make life easier on especially students coming out of school that are starting a practice. So there's a couple things that we do there. Our general pricing is $299 a month for offices. So just if you're signing up and there's no discounts or anything like that, it's $299 a month. We will be adding in some extra fees for once we release that mobile app we're talking about. That will be a separate fee associated with that. But again, our goal for this is to make it as accessible to everyone as possible, to where you're thinking about running your practice, not about paying your ChiroHD bill. We want to be a part of growing your practice, and we want you to see us as a partner in that. So we want to really focus on that. We do have a one-time sign-up fee of $7.99, and that just gives you access to someone for that initial day of setup and setting up CPT codes and services and all those things that need to happen to get your offices up and running. If we do some data migration stuff, there's a $500 fee for that if we're bringing information from another system. Obviously, there's limited support in some systems, but whatever we can do, we will do, and we charge for that. But in terms of the new graduates, right now we waive that setup fee. So that $7.99 fee goes away if you're a new student coming on board. We don't charge you that at all. We also give you the first 2 months free. So you're not having to think about it for at least 2 months, that first bill. And the other thing is that we've also worked with offices in terms of, I'm opening up in a month. Can I get access? Can I get my stuff turned on now so I can start setting up some of those things? And we're always willing to look at that on a case-by-case basis. But those are things that, we want to make sure that we're not, tying your hands in terms of giving you access the day you open your doors and things like that. And so we really want to make sure that we're pouring into the offices that are opening, that we're helping them and giving them ideas and really helping them open their practice, not just giving them access to our software. And so we're continuing to build out our support teams and our sales teams to be able to always be able to do those types of things as we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's awesome. So they waived the setup fee for new grads and students coming out, and you get the first 2 months free. So, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's hands down the best deal on the block. But it seems like the smartest decision as well, just knowing how financially in debt students are to this day, and myself included in that. So it's something to definitely consider. And where can people find out more information, Gabriel?
Yeah, the best place is just ChiroHD.com. So there's a message, a contact us form on there. They can submit it straight from there. They can sign up directly from that site. Again, we'll be adding in links to students, and there'll be a verification process to make sure you're a new student, but we'll be adding in those specialized links, but you can sign up directly on the site and get access right away. But yeah, that get in touch with us form on the site is probably the easiest and fastest way to get in touch with us.
Awesome. I absolutely love it, Gabriel. I always enjoy having you on the show. It's an absolute blast to work with ChiroHD and to hear just kind of what you guys have not only done, but also what you have coming in the pipeline and down the pipeline, as we like to say. So I'm really excited to see your year of growth here, and really excited to just be involved in this. And I'm pumped to see you kind of on the other side of this. And I want to wish you a happy birthday one last time. Very happy birthday. I hope you have a lovely, lovely evening. I hope you have another glass of whiskey or bourbon, whatever you're drinking, for me. Pour some out for me, and enjoy the evening. And thank you again, as always, for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast as always. Next time.
Absolutely.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.